Welcome to the More Than More podcast, where we discuss building meaningful, impactful businesses, careers, and lives through real estate.
That was the first time you didn't dance to this music.
I'm all danced out this morning.
His knee's broken.
It's okay. It's 9 a.m. on a Thursday. Not everybody dances at this time of day.
Good morning, ladies. Enough about my dancing.
Oh, sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing?
It's been a bumpy start to the day.
Yeah.
But we're here and we're excited to talk about our topic today, Orphans of Teso.
Yes, I'm here with Dylan and Jen de Bruin. We are going to talk about Orphans of Teso, as Dylan said. We haven't gotten an update in a while, so we are going to chat about what you guys have been up to in Uganda. We're going to hear about your recent trip. We're going to hear about the future of Orphans of Teso.
It's been 2 years since we have updated everyone, other than my amazing videos that I put out a few weeks ago.
I was super excited about those. Thank you.
You're basically a TikTok. I guess Reels. Reels was your choice. You're a Reels star.
I was told to use CapCut. I did what I was instructed, and I think they turned out okay, but I'm going to be honest. It took a lot of takes, and I do not like talking to myself on a camera.
You didn't have a script. You were just talking. You're a script person.
But I know that we needed to get better updates to people about what's actually going on. And I think it was really, really cool. I'm still getting updates on how many people are watching those videos.
It was cool to see things real time. Like, hey, here are the chickens you raised money for. Here are the kids that are taking pictures. Like, behind the scenes, right? That's how it felt.
Well, like I said earlier, I feel guilty that we haven't done a better job of keeping everybody abreast and updated of what we're doing. It's been 16 years of this. And I think, I don't know, you go through different phases and chapters where, I mean, early on we worked so hard to write blogs and update everybody on everything. And I think as we've gotten to these later chapters, it's just been easy to focus on the work backstage, talk to the sponsors directly, which you've done a great job of, but not be video stars. So
There's a lot of slow progress too, right? There were years where we were just sending kids to school and nothing you could really see or tell. It's just slow progress. Now, after all these years, we're starting to see a lot of
some results, right?
Yeah.
Some of the unsexy work that had to go on, in the middle 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited that Abbie, thanks for pushing to get an update out to everybody, and let's see how we do here.
Yeah. Well, before we get into what you guys are currently doing, I would like for you to just share a brief overview of Orphans of Teso, your time there. You've spent quite a lot of time there, and I know there's a few people who don't necessarily have context for what the story is there. So if you wouldn't mind, just what is Orphans of Teso? What have you guys done there?
What is Orphans of Teso, Jen?
Well, Orphans of Teso is our Century 21, all of our friends and families, 3 villages in Uganda, in the Teso region of Uganda, underneath Children's Hope Chest. So we're a part of Children's Hope Chest. Orphans of Teso is our portion. I know a lot of people are confused. What's Children's Hope Chest versus Orphans of Teso? So
They're your partners, right?
Yeah.
This is probably a good time to tell everyone that we just renamed Orphans of Teso.
I know. I was thinking of that.
Did you actually?
And we spent a few hours at our 3-day retreat with the kids coming up with what they would like to be called. Because as we said Orphans of Teso out loud, we're like, we don't want to call you orphans anymore. Like, this is a group of successful, thriving people. So it's kind of fun. They loved the idea.
So Orphans of Teso is now known in the CarePoints by the children and the staff as Amina Teso.
Okay.
Did we pick Amina?
Yeah.
The love. Amina is love, and so it's the love of Teso, the region. And we had all different, like there was the light of Teso, there was the
Star of Teso. And they had all these background reasons of why. Like,
it's Amina, not Teso, which doesn't really roll off the tongue in English.
Not for the rest of us, no. But that's cool. They chose it, though. They were part
exactly.
of that.
And I think that's really symbolic, or
how they feel, what they feel they've received.
Well, of the whole thing, of the whole mission. The mission here was never to create dependency or a charity, but to come alongside a group of people that we fell in love with and provide a context for them to get on their own feet. So let me back up.
Yeah.
Orphans of Teso. It's our nonprofit. It's under the I3, I Impact and Improve nonprofit that we all have as an organization. And it essentially started, I guess, back in 2009. Joe and I merge our companies together. We jump on a plane, head to Zambia and Uganda, and go start researching. What we're looking for is a place that we can take our for-profit company and do, I don't want to call it nonprofit work, but go and make an impact in the world, which is where the name Impact came from. but do it in a way that we don't just give money to some charity. We wanted something we could tactile,
Get your hands on.
tangibly
And,
get engaged with and have our team be involved in some capacity. So when we finally found Hope Chest, a Colorado-based nonprofit, we partnered with them. What they were doing was they were in multiple countries. They were doing sustainable development work, connected first to orphan care and then partnering with communities to build out future capabilities for these communities to give them a hand up, not a handout. And when we started, we went to Uganda. We went to multiple different locations where they were trying to launch CarePoints. And the 8th or 9th one that we visited was called it was a teeny tiny little village called Ogloy. There was really nothing there in terms of infrastructure. It's super remote, out in the wild. We had to drive down these windy dirt roads. I mean, it literally felt like you were going nowhere.
You should not be driving on those roads.
No, we shouldn't have been, especially not in that little minivan that we had. But we decided to partner with this tiny village called Ogloy. And Ogloy had about 120 orphaned or vulnerable kids that we partnered with, sponsored. And as the story goes, we thought it was much more than we could possibly manage, 120 kids, finding sponsors for all of them. But somehow, about 3 or 4 months later, all those kids were sponsored.
That's quick.
Yeah, it was quite remarkable. And we've talked about this a lot over the years. If it wasn't for Facebook at that point, and it was early social media days, 2010, 11, if it wasn't for that, there's no way this could have happened.
Yeah.
And so
It
it was
was a
just
perfect platform for spreading.
Perfect
it
time
was just a
too,
lot of
less
blogging.
stuff. Yeah.
And then the other thing that we did well is we showed up every 6 months there at the CarePoint site and just told the story. So long story short, 3-4 months later, we just took a major leap of faith. And there was a second location that we had visited called Bukedea. And it was way bigger. It was 230, 240 kids, much more urban area, very, very, like it was a rough area. And we said, okay, look, we think we can at least just try find some additional sponsors for Bukedea. That took about 6 months, and we had all of those kids sponsored. The original kids, obviously, because we've added since then. And then, again, to tell this part of the story, we had these 2 CarePoints, and we thought, what more can we do? And we actually jumped on a plane, went to Moldova, and partnered with an organization in Moldova doing, they were rescuing girls from sex trafficking rings. And it's actually the sex traffic capital of like the world, Romania and Moldova. And they were rehabilitating these young women that had been rescued, providing job skills and training. So we partnered with them for not that long. It was about 6 months before we realized that splitting our interests across these 2 locations was just too much in terms of, because the whole goal was to be there and travel and create tangible connection with our team. And we could imagine a future where our team could go and visit our CarePoints and sponsor kids and communicate with the kids. That same opportunity didn't exist in the context of these young women. And so what they're doing there is a beautiful work, but we decided after 6-8 months, it was smarter and a better use of our capabilities to instead go bite off a third CarePoint. And that's where Hope Chest called us and said, hey, there's this new location. It's called Ogongaja. It's known by the locals as the ends of the earth.
Oh.
It's inaccessible 2/3 of the year. It's either drought or floods there, and these people are forgotten. They're actually right next to this warlike tribal group called the Karamojong. And so we said, of course.
We got this. We'll get in our minivan.
The de Bruins will go.
That was another 200 and some kids. And we were successful in sponsoring all of those. And so where we are, Orphans of Teso is 3. It's the 3, we call them our firstborn, secondborn, and lastborn. That's how they refer to themselves. We're no longer going to call them Orphans of Teso. They're now Amina no Teso.
Yep.
At least
Within
backstage.
at least for them.
Yeah. And 16 long years of progress, starting, I think this is worth saying, just to recap everything, starting with real basic beginnings, school, food, medical care, and then basic like leadership and discipleship for these children.
Survive, thrive, succeed. So we had to start with helping them survive.
Because, early on, literally, we're not eating, we're not attending school. These kids are forgotten, abandoned, and they're a burden on the community. As that's progressed, we've moved towards more skills training and development. These kids are now moving through school in ways that there's no way they ever could have made it as far as they've made it. Some of them are actually moving all the way to college, which is unheard of.
And we've had some graduate with bachelor's degrees.
Huge success. But many of them, that's just not, they're 22 and they're in like just getting to high school. Yeah. And their life circumstances are never going to allow for that much progress in a formal school tract. But they're getting then skills training, whether it's carpentry or we've got mechanics,
hairdressing, welding.
Yep. And so where we're at now, Survive, Thrive, Succeed, is the phase where not only have many or most of the kids worked through the system over 16 years, now developed these capabilities and skills. Many of them have graduated and are now
269 have fully graduated.
And are many of them local. They're in. Some of them are helping lead the CarePoints. Some of them are running businesses in town where they're caring now for their siblings and the community around them. So really cool to see that. And where we're headed now is the chapter where not only are we graduating the kids out progressively, but we're actually working towards the graduation of the CarePoints as an entirety. So, I mean, that's Orphans of Teso, Amina na Teso.
So what does graduating CarePoints mean? Does that mean you are, quote unquote, done, finished? Does the work end? Or are there more kids that continue to come into the programs?
I think it's a process that's still being understood, but the goal is for it to switch over to a community-based organization so that the communities still start take over the progress. They still support children in the area that need help. They are like doing some of these income-generating projects that we've started. They continue to run them and then use that funding in whatever ways the community needs.
So a CBO, a community-based organization, is a technical thing. Okay. So you start with these NGOs is what they call them. Non-governmental organizations are nonprofits operating in country. Yeah. A CBO is, I don't even know how new the idea is, but it's a community-based organization. It's where, I guess, whatever is in play is physically owned, managed. It's a government-registered organization run and overseen by a local community membership group. And so what's going on is, as we're moving forward, we're decreasing the amount, because there's a significant amount of funding that goes into providing schooling and these capabilities for each of these sites, and that's fundamentally unsustainable. Without American or Europe or Western funding for this, there's no way that amount of money is going to be created or generated or sustained inside these CarePoints. But what can be sustained is the sites that we have with the skills training and the VSLAs, the micro savings loan groups, and some of the just organizational based training that's going on at these locations. And so where we're at is increasingly we're graduating kids out, reallocating the funding that was going towards schooling towards investment into income generating projects, so that these CBOs can progressively start to stand on their own feet under their own local leadership. And the metaphor would be that because we're getting them registered at the local government and we're training up the, I guess it'd be like the community leaders that are essentially going to be I suppose you could think of them as
the caretakers of your programs, or
sure, but in like an organization, what would you call them? Like the officers or this is the board management
members.
Committee. Yeah, they're the board that are going to essentially take this thing over, because it's going to run just like a business at that point. And we're in the process of training the local leadership to take the keys to these locations. Yeah. And that's the picture of sustainability that we've landed on after 16 years of trying to figure out, well, what does sustainability look like in these communities? So.
That's interesting that they'll still need the funding. So in a sense, like the work doesn't end. Like there's still fundraising to happen. There's still projects to support. There are still things, actionable things that can be done, but they have more ownership.
Later?
No, we won't be fundraising anymore. Once these CarePoints graduate, so 2 of our CarePoints will graduate 2028. We will not be providing funding. Maybe there'll be some scholarships for students who are university.
Gotcha.
We don't know what that looks like exactly yet, but we won't continue to do fundraising for them.
And for the last 5 years, this is what we've been. I mean, obviously the programs have continued. The kids are still being like guided, led, and provided the resources and training that they've been getting. But the other work that's been going on is I guess, training up and convincing, maybe is another word. And we're not the ones doing this. The local leadership is doing this. The Uganda-based staff that are overseeing Hope Chest on the ground, but getting buy-in from the community to understand, look, for the last 15 years, this CarePoint has provided this amazing opportunity for your community. Look at the change, and they know the change. They've seen the change that's happened. But now it's convincing them to understand, look, unlike every other NGO, unlike every other charity-based organization that you've all become accustomed to over 30, 40 years of what's going on in this country, this is not here forever.
Yeah.
This is here to help you get to a certain point and then help you start to stand on your own feet. And they will like that idea until the reality of it starts to set in. Mm-hmm. And increasingly, they've started to get it. They're buying in. They're going, okay, hold on. We need to find solutions now. So all the income generating projects that we've worked on now for 10 years that have been fine, they're now starting to look at it and go, wait, this is real. This is legit. We need to take ownership of this, and we need to figure out how to make this thing work so that this CarePoint can continue after Orphans of Teso moves on. And that might sound cold and calloused, but from the beginning, like 15 years ago when we signed these initial agreements stepping into this, the understanding was always this was going to be a 10-year long initiative that wasn't going to create dependency. It was going to create some form of sustainability.
Well, and that's what I think you want to go back to is our goal has always been providing dignity to these people, and the dignity is for them to be able to provide for themselves. So if you look back at our Change Their Stories for the last, 5-6 years, the goal has always been let's provide an opportunity for the communities to take care of themselves, whether that's the VSLAs or all the different projects we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. And the buy-in is slowly happening.
Well, the team there is amazing. And so the Ugandan leadership under Joseph, that a lot of people have met, and then just the team underneath him, he's done an amazing job. And so these guys get it. So you've got local leadership in Uganda, then you've got the leadership in Colorado, and then you've got us. So you've got kind of 3 tiers there, right? And then you've got leadership being trained at the CarePoints, the community leaders. They've done a remarkable job. It's not easy work. But I liken it to raising kids. I mean, because we've got a 19-year-old and an almost 17-year-old. You don't get to a point where your kid gets it all. You just know that you've done the work to create the opportunity for them to have a great shot at life. And then at some point you say, here's the keys to the car. Like, we're here for you. We love you, and we will always support you. And anything we can do to help, we'll do. But also, if I keep providing for you, I actually hurt you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is. We've always understood that, but I think it's important to say that let's call it the sustainable development movement.
Yeah.
Well, let me back up. You got a couple hundred years of colonialism in Africa, and we just rob from these people. Then that ends in the 60s and 70s, and these countries all gain their independence. And then what we have is 10, 15, 20 years of just separation. And then we have, oh crap, we've done a lot of damage. And then all of a sudden you got Bono and everyone singing songs about how we need to help Africa.
Yeah.
And so what happens is we all just start giving our used clothing and money and just start shooting it into the continent.
We're not even thinking about
no
their economy.
thought about what this is doing. And actually what it does is create much more harm than good. It starts crushing their local economies, all their local trade. Like, you can't make clothing there because it's flooded with all of our used jeans and stuff that we bought from the Gap.
Yeah.
And so it's well-intentioned, but it actually created dependency, and all these nonprofits that were there were just, they were good people trying to do good work. But for 30 years, we just didn't realize that all the help was actually hurting. And it was just creating dependency from these people. It's not until the early 2000s that the sustainability, community development mindset, we call it asset-based community development. You don't go in and say, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Let's give it to you. You go in and you say, hey, what are you good at? What capabilities do you have? Where are your strengths? What's your unique ability?
Yeah.
And as we start asking them that, then all of a sudden they stand up just a little taller, and you go, okay, well, hold on, you're great at this. How can we help you build upon that? And so what you got to understand is asset-based community development and that sustainability thinking really doesn't birth until 20 years ago. And so all of these nonprofits and charities and at least many of them have been working to rethink this whole thing. And I would say Hope Chest has been pretty far at the forefront of that, very committed to the notion of shifting into this new world. So I guess I'm bringing that all up to say no one knows, no one knew. Like, we're trying to fix a very, very, very complex problem.
It'll take a few generations, of
yes,
these kids being raised.
And the kids need to eat. And we need to help this community, after years of civil war, try and just provide basic needs and hope to them and to the caregivers and to the moms that would love for their kids to be able to go to school.
And no matter what happens to these actual CarePoint locations, we know we have 1,000 children who've gotten an education, who are now providing for themselves, taking care of their families, don't have to be dependent on any handouts.
But that's what we would call survive. Yeah. And so we know we help them survive, but then
that's
all
succeeding.
Of us, well, that's where I'm going. Like, all of us have been figuring out along the way, what does succeed even look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think this is where we've landed. So back to your question, Abbie, like, no, we are not intending to continue funding these actively in the way that they were. It's not sustainable. People don't want to sponsor kids forever. Yeah. And frankly, kids don't want to be sponsored forever. They might think they do. Yeah. But what they really want is hope and dignity to be able to go stand on their own feet and be successful in their communities, providing for their brothers and sisters or nephews. And that's kind of where we're at. Now, it's ugly and it's messy and it's imperfect by every metric.
Very slow progress.
It's very slow and unsexy. But here's what's not debatable, is whether or not it's a fundamentally different place than it was 15 years ago. Like, the transformation in all three of these locations is just absolutely night and day. And the level of gratitude and just the beauty of those people's hearts in terms of their incapacity to fathom how anyone could have just chosen them. Why them? And why would you provide this help? So there's always more need. There's always more struggle. And yes, there's more kids that could be sponsored. But it's better for us to create a mindset of, I need to go and figure out how to continue this work myself, rather than do what's been done in the past, which is just create a perpetual dependency where they go, well, why would I do that hard work if I can just wait for the next round of handouts? Yeah. And that's really where the whole mindset's at.
Well, like, the one word I'm thinking of is agency, like ownership of yourself and your outcome. And
well, I gotta respond to that, because that was the heart of this thing from the beginning. Is when Joe and I started this initiative, part of what we were thinking was, how do I explain this? Why does the nonprofit and the for-profit world have to be completely separate? Aren't the principles that make the for-profit world work agency? Yeah. If it is to be, it's up to me. Non-dependency, all opportunity lies on the other side of value creation, all the things that make our company work. Yeah. Well, they're the same things that work anywhere in the world. And so, how do you stop creating entitlement and dependency in a space where you just give? How do you rather come along and train people to understand all the things that we understand that make Century 21 work? Yeah.
That's actually a note I wrote down at the very beginning, because you were saying sustainable. And it's like, just like how we teach our agents to build sustainable businesses that perpetuate, obviously on a very different scale, but it's the same philosophy.
Well, what we want for our agents here is what we want for our kids in Uganda. Yeah. And that's the capacity to put hard work into the world and life and produce returns and yields that impact and improve the world around them and their lives.
Yeah. Dylan actually got an opportunity to teach for 5 hours to 100 of the students who are in this really cool leadership program. All the things he's teaching people here, he got to teach them.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask about that, because you had mentioned when you came back that, and I guess we can get to the trip now, all the things that you did. Now that we're 20 minutes in.
We really got deep today.
We just started high level, and we'll just go down from here, right? We'll land the plane. But that is what you taught when you... Yeah,
I mean, so... separate from our 3 CarePoints, because there's another 10, 15 CarePoints throughout Uganda that are
other programs
also being run out of that. And then just from around the entire nation, children that are excelling are selected. So 3 or 4 of our kids were in this particular class, but you've got about 50 kids per class. They're pulled into this really, really cool facility for 6, 8, 10 weeks at a time. And there's a leadership academy. Okay. And I've actually not attended it yet. We've been a part of watching it grow as we've been working on our CarePoints. This is funded in part by Hope Chest and fundraising that we do, and but it's separate from our CarePoints. Anyway, got to go teach there, and I just got to say, I mean, two things. One, I was blown away because I actually got to look at all their notebooks and all the stuff that they've been doing for the first 3 weeks of the curriculum. Absolutely blown away.
What are they learning?
Everything that every 19, 20, and 22 year whatever should be taught. Basic life skills, communication. I mean, tactical empathy. But like
the people skills, right?
All people skills, and then like basic life skills. But when I say basic, I mean the stuff that no one in America is taught.
Yeah.
Basically, we keep complaining about how college universities are teaching all the wrong things, all the right things. These kids are being taught. I was so impressed. And so what I was supposed to be teaching was 2 topics. One was entrepreneurship and the other was mindset. And what I did is I just combined them together, and I did 4, 5, 6 hours on an entrepreneurial mindset. And so I taught through all the same principles that we teach here. And that was...
Did the word real estate slip out of your mouth accidentally a few times? Rethink real estate.
No, that's the beauty of what we teach here is it's
applicable.
It's totally independent of real estate. It's about building, it's about creating value for other people. So yeah, it was really fun to do that. But the fun part wasn't me getting to teach. I think it was me seeing what they're being taught.
Yeah.
And my belief set in that leadership academy went through the roof. I think that's one of the coolest things that is going on in and through everything that we've been doing for the last 15 years. Super impressed.
Yeah, and a lot of those students are then coming out and leading our CarePoints, which is kind of fun too.
Yeah, they can take what they've learned and put it into action. How old did you say they were? Like 19, 20?
To all the way
Like
up
young
to 30
adults.
probably, because they're a lot further behind age-wise. So like they just graduated high school, but that might be 25.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Well, since we're on the topic of your trip, please tell us what else you learned. I particularly wanted to ask about the VSLA program because it's been a couple years since we've talked about that. And now that your people are starting to produce, they're starting businesses and maybe taking advantage of this.
Well, let's try to do this systematically, Jen. So let's just forget the CarePoint separations. Let's just talk about the projects that are going on from the top down. Let's start with VSLAs. So
VSLAs, I think, are the most impactful project that we have. So it stands
VSLA
for
is what?
Village Savings and Loan Association. So basically, 15 to 50 people gather together from a community, and they all come together every month and save money. So they might be saving $3. Everyone puts their money in a pot, and then that whole group, someone can take out loans of that money to do the things that they need to do. Again, we're trying to help them be able to provide for themselves. So their child is sick, needs to go to the doctor.
So are there parameters to what they can use the money for? Like it can be for business or not business?
No, I mean, a lot of them
Whatever
use them for paying their kids' school fees, going to the doctor, building a house, or starting a business. But that money used to be something they had to depend on us for, right? Mm-hmm. So our goal is to help them provide for themselves.
But I think it's important to understand that so many of these things break down. Like when you say they put it in a pot and then they loan it and they can use it to pay school fees, that sounds, well, that's not that cool. But you got to understand, there's so much complexity. Your school fees come, and when they come, these are subsistence farmers. Mm-hmm. And so you've got this pile of grain that you've gathered, or cassava, or whatever it is, and you got to pay the school fees. So what you've got to do is sell the cassava in order to get the money to pay the school fees, or your kid physically just doesn't get to go to school. Yeah. They just sit out that whole term, and they're already 20, yeah. or 16, and they're only in 3rd grade, or. But the problem is when you need the school fees happens to be the time when there's tons and tons of cassava. So you sell the cassava at the lowest possible prices because you got to give it away because you have to sell it to pay the school fees. Whereas now, if I can loan this money to pay the school fees, I've got to pay it back with 10% monthly interest, which is crazy. But the good news is the interest is going into my collective pot. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's going to a bank. It's going to us, our group. But now what I can do is hang on to my cassava and wait until the dry season when there's no cassava, sell it then for a premium, which is more than enough to pay back the loan and the interest, because we're talking about major shifts in markets here. So we just failed to understand the complexities of their world and their marketplace. But once you start to really get into the nuance of this, you understand how impactful these VSLAs are. Now, the VSLAs aren't just, hey, let's get under a mango tree and save money. There's training that's involved. There's business training that they're given. And so we're bringing in trained professionals to meet with all the groups and help them understand not just how to do the savings and investment and repayment process, but also various examples and ideas of what can be done with it.
Gotcha.
So many of them are just, using these funds to take turns to be able to buy each of the members a goat or two. And once you've gone through a full cycle, everyone in this group of 50 now has 2 or 3 goats. And then they're all living next to each other, and the goats are having a grand old time. And so, we visited with several of these members that now they started with 1 or 2 goats. And from 2 years of this, there was like 50 or 60 goats in one of those neighborhoods. And a goat's not a goat. A goat is a savings bond.
Yeah.
And
Wealth.
Yeah, I can't remember the amount, but there's
it was insane.
98 of them now or something, but all in one place. We got to go see them.
Yeah.
We actually named one Dylan and Jen.
Yeah,
Jen had triplets in her belly.
But the impact there is multiple fold. It's an empowerment system where they've never thought to save, they've never had the capacity to save, and they've never had the capacity to invest, and because there's growth in these savings, but they've also never had the capacity to then be trained and empowered to think about how it's no different than us teaching Ramsey in here and talking about home ownership with our staff. It's that, only with goats instead of houses.
Yeah.
But then the biggest thing is the mindset shift, because all of a sudden you've got years and years of these VSLAs, and all of a sudden you've got people that went from 1 to 50 goats, and now they're building what they call a permanent structure. That it's not a mud hut anymore. They've got bricks, and they're building this nice permanent home right next to the mud hut.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden someone's looking across going, whoa, hold on, that could be me.
Yeah.
And what I need to do is I need to get my act together, stop brewing some nasty beer in my mud hut. I need to figure out, how can I add to the pot? How can I start doing this as well? And that's where the transformation starts to happen. And you see it in their posture. You see it in there's a pride.
There's a pride in becoming like a contributing member of society, right?
And I did something that moved my family forward. And you know what? I'm not going to get sponsorship money in 3 years for my kid, but it's okay. I now have the capacity to pay for my kids' school fees.
And the people who are seeing the success and feeling it, they're not asking for any more, right? Like, they're so happy and excited and grateful. Yeah. And it's pretty fun to watch the progress.
So VSLAs is huge. The other things that have been impactful, let's move to what they're doing, like the maggots and the chickens and all that stuff. Talk through that.
Poultry is an easy raising chickens is an easy thing. I think in
a huge barn full of chickens. Yes,
two of our villages we have. So one of them, we have a big one that can hold up to 2,000 chickens, I think. But they buy them babies, and they just grow them up and sell them. So they're not incubating them or anything like that. So that one, we have a project in Bukadea and Ongongaja. We actually have some of our alumni who've started a really cool poultry project as well, because it's something that can continue on while they're in college.
Now, the reality is that will produce a hefty amount of revenue. It's nothing that could possibly replace the sponsorship money that's been coming in.
Sure.
But we all understand that. But you can scale it. And so one of the things we've been talking to them about is, we've done a lot of things. There's soap, there's pots and pans, there's chickens, there's the goats, there's the VSLAs, there's just tons of different initiatives. What we're trying to help each community do is start to hone in on the few things that have the capacity to produce at scale the largest potential yield. Because what we're talking about now is everyone needs to try things, and we're trying to expand their thinking. But now if we've got a CBO, and we want this CBO to continue to stand on its own feet, it needs to figure out what it can do really, really well.
Yeah.
And so, you've got tailoring schools at many of these locations and different training going on. And those can stand on their own feet in the sense that you've got a tailoring teacher. People from the community can come to the CarePoint, pay the fees, learn the trade, and then move on. But that's just a small little nugget, right? How can this thing produce enough revenue that it's got enough money to keep cover upkeep, keep the fences, add new infrastructure?
So who's asking these questions? Are you guys with Hope Chest coming up with these ideas for projects, or are they suggesting?
I'm quite confident that if we came up with these ideas independent of them, we would completely muck it all up.
Yeah.
So that's where, Joseph, the country director, is it Isaac?
The people around there are helping to come up with.
Oh, these are smart people.
Yeah.
But I think the good thing that Dylan's adding is that they want to try all the projects. Dylan's like, how about we pick what's the most
He has to do
profitable?
that here with us too.
Yeah.
That
In
sounds
your
familiar.
village, you focus on that, and let's do that times 10 now.
Let's
Then.
do less,
something.
less
Times
better.
20 do.
Try.
I'm telling you, that's the beauty of this, is what's true here is true there.
Yeah.
And we're all just trying to figure out how to do it better. And it's a beautiful thing that the same struggles we have here are the ones they have there. We just get to collaborate and help them
Solve creatively.
hopefully.
Yeah.
But
We have poultry projects. We have a passion fruit orchard, which is this beautiful orchard of vines, and that's going really well. It needs to grow and, can also exponentiate. We have a greenhouse that they're doing
in Overloy.
growing onions and tomatoes and green peppers. And again, they're doing this in a time when it's drought everywhere
I was going to
else.
ask about the water situation.
Yeah, because we have a solar water pump there,
Okay.
so they get to grow all year round. So again, they get to sell when nobody else has it. Then they have the batch, so they can make a lot more money. So it's a pretty fun operation. And then we have a beekeeping project in Uganda.
I won't say names, but one of our agents has been asking me lots of questions
Where are
about
the bees?
I see the bees and I see the hives. Where's the flowers? Where are
Shea nut butter trees.
Oh, is this the answer?
Yeah, shea nut butter trees.
That's
what
where they're
in.
getting their.
And which apparently shea nut butter flowers make the best honey.
So hold on. The trees that those hives are in is where the flowers are
Yes.
sourced? I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just
If you're
blew everybody's
listening,
minds.
you know who you are. You now have the answer to your question.
Shea nut butter trees.
We got to taste a lot of the honey too. It is delicious. Apparently,
Oh.
it's better because it's from.
I still think that's like we argued about this, not argued, but we discussed it with them. That's never going to create significant revenue.
Yeah, the amount of money we have to put in order to create that project will never come out in that amount of
The scale is it?
Yeah.
There.
But how many things have we done as an organization, Century 21 or RPM, whatever, that we're like, we tried it and then we realized, okay, hold on, this doesn't scale. And I think it's no different for them. So it's a process. And I think that they knew in Ogongacha that beekeeping was a skill that several of them had. It's asset-based community development. And so they're trying it. It might turn out that the revenue that generates just isn't worth the initiative. But I think there's something intrinsically beautiful and valuable about the process, even if it doesn't produce that. So I know that we've looked at that and said, well, hold on, what's the ROI on this for the community? Maybe the ROI isn't
how much money comes in is the dignity.
Maybe it's not numerical.
Just the learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning to try, right?
We'll see. It's going well. They're producing this really, really good honey. I'd kind of like to ship a bunch of it home, but
Are you allowed to take those
I'm
things
a
home?
million-
Someone
100%.
has it. Yeah.
we would totally get stopped at customs. Think about
was gonna
But
say.
Adam, they're like, Adam, you want to try it? He's like, I actually have some. My wife brought me a whole container.
got
So
lucky.
someone got some home.
because we got strip searched going through customs this time.
Would not recommend trying.
What other projects do we have? I mean, one of the big projects that we've done, or something we've been trying to do, is actually all of our projects being in the community. So let's give every parent a female pig and then let them raise those pigs. They have to give back so many to the CarePoint as like a return so that they can continue to giving on, but then they get to keep the rest moving forward. So again, from those pigs, they can provide their own children's school fees. They can pay for their kids when they get sick.
Do you remember the goat thing? Early 2012 or whatever. I look back on that and it was we liked the idea because it just sold well. People could buy a goat for Christmas. Looking back, those were transformative.
Yeah, we're still hearing success stories. Like this one goat is now 10 cows because one goat gets sold for 6 cows, or 6 goats for 1 cow, or whatever the number is, and then those exponentiate. So we're still hearing huge progress from.
It's
those
cool.
goats. That's where the whole saying you underestimate or overestimate what you can do in 1 year, right? And then underestimate what you can do in 10 years.
How about that?
How's it feel to be quoted, yourself quoted to you? How's that feel?
Well, that's
Is that
great,
weird?
but I think I have to give props to, I think it was Bill Gates that said that first.
I remember Francis Chan also saying it.
Okay.
Okay, it's not Dylan. Don't give him credit for it.
I'm jumping way to the end here, but while the thoughts in my head as you're talking about that and goats and everything, I think that was the sum total of this trip. Because let me just be honest, it's brutal going there. And I've done this trip, I don't know, 20 times more.
Yeah.
And every time I come back sick, I mean, I think
It
we're
takes
still
2 weeks to get back to normal.
Well,
Are
we've
we
still
back
got
to normal?
parasites.
No, yeah.
So the trips are brutal, and they really beat you up. And I've done it so many times. And I first want to confess, I just don't want to go anymore.
Yeah.
It's horrible. But every time I go, I have the same thing. And this time I think was maybe the most profound version of it. It's just, we are doing a great thing. Like, this is so cool what's gone on there.
Yeah.
So that was...
Is there anything you would have done differently? Like when you go there and you see things?
Like
Anything off the top
over
of
the
your head?
years?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
all
lots
it,
of things
all
we've
of it.
learned.
Anything big?
Well, we've created this, like, within specific children, I would say, a dependency. Like,
Okay.
when they're never supposed to be able to ask for specific things. We've let some kids like, oh, Auntie, please bring me this. Please bring me
Sure.
this. And we've given in to lots of them. So now those are the kids that are the hardest because they still think every single time we come, we should be able to give them
Well,
things.
we've grown a lot over the years. I mean, early on, second year, I'm thinking of Peter Pan. There was this family that was just absolutely destitute. It's 3 kids, total orphans. They're literally just scrounging around. And they were already sponsored, 2 of them, or one of them.
Well, we knew their mom. Their mom was about to die. Like, we
Yeah.
watched her die.
But we just found out how bad their story was. And they had no hope. I mean, the mom was about to die, but the father, they'd already lost their land. They just had nowhere to go. These are young kids. I mean, Peter Pan was probably like 4, 5, 6 at the time.
Yeah.
He's not actually called Peter Pan. That's our nickname.
I assumed it was a nickname.
He was wearing these green shorts that were like tattered at
and
the
a green
bottom,
shirt.
just
Gotcha.
like Peter Pan. And so, yeah, fell in love with them. But we did something that was beautiful and stupid. We worked with the community to acquire some land right next to the CarePoint, and we physically built these kids a house, a structure. It was a brick building. Now, at that point, there were no brick buildings anywhere in this community. And these 3 kids, under the care of like their guardians at the CarePoint, all of a sudden they're living in this house. And
Yeah.
but now, and we did it in other locations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was it good? It was beautiful. I mean, if anyone deserved help, it was them. But you can understand the ramifications
In the
of
long
that.
term.
Because all of a sudden, every time we come back, all of a sudden there's a line of people wanting to tell us their story about how terrible their reality is. And they were terrible.
Yeah.
But now there's a precedent set of, if we can sell you on our terrible story, maybe you'll build us a house. And that's the opposite of what we're trying to get done here. So you asked, what would we do differently? I mean, like every year there was something we did that was stupid. And yet the sum total of it was that we got better and smarter. And again, I just keep likening it to raising kids. Like, would you do anything different about how we raised our kids? Yes,
Sure,
there's lots
yeah.
of things we screwed up. But in general, we did great.
Yeah.
And what we have is young, capable, smart, independent young men. And I think that's where we're headed with these CarePoints. They truly are. It's just a beautiful thing that's gone on there.
Yeah.
So that's projects in a nutshell.
It's a lot.
I feel like we could be more deliberate and systematic, but the truth is there's a ton of things going on. And they're at the point where they're starting to take ownership of them and figure out, well, which of these are actually, because they're thinking long-term now.
Yeah.
They say their term is end goal. Like, anytime they're up talking, they're like, with end goal, this. And like, so it's getting run through their minds over and over again. End goal is this year, and we have to become sustainable by then. So they're thinking it and feeling it and
So-
loving it as well.
Yeah. Survive, thrive, succeed.
It sounds condescending almost, but it's no different than, frankly, Americans. I mean, think of people inside of our walls and how, well, I'll even look at you. I mean, your progress in however many years, 5 years here, from where you were to where you are in terms of owning your outcomes and understanding that you're the captain of your ship, and agency is the word you use. The same things we're not taught here about what makes a successful life, they have not been taught there.
Yeah.
Only you add to that the exponential impact of being completely in scarcity,
Yep.
perpetually
War-torn
eating
country.
with no food.
No food. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's so much progress, but it's from such a low starting point. It's just amazing how much the ratchet effect of ideas matter. And it's like 90% of the work is getting the light switch to go off on. And once it's there, really the future's, everything's possible.
Yeah. It's interesting. People everywhere have to become, regardless of where they are, right?
Yeah, there's students who graduate and then they're like, okay, I'm going to take what I got and I'm going to go and I'm going to be successful. And there's students that graduate, okay, I need help more. You know, like they're the ones, they're not going to be successful because they're going to just continue waiting for handouts. Like
you either get it or you don't.
Ones who take the ownership.
You have an alumni program, right? Did I see that?
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad you brought that up.
Because you said, students are coming back now. They've graduated from their trade schools or programs. And
so all 3 CarePoints have this group now, this network of alumni. And when we met with one of them and they actually have this WhatsApp chat group. And they, like, anytime they have a need within the community, they're like, how can we help each other rather than having to go out? So they even all came together and bought school supplies for all the kids going to school.
Like your next generation taking the reins, right?
Yeah. And I love it. And they want to be involved.
Well, and that was steered by Hope Chest staff. I mean, they recognized, okay, hold on. Again, we haven't thought this through. We're making it up as we go. But they're like, wait, all these kids have graduated. How do we keep them connected so that they come and pour back into these locations, these CBOs? And so
the goal, but they told us that these graduates don't even quite know yet, but the goal to make these graduations successful is bringing all these alumni back in and empowering them to help take the reins as well.
And who knows where that goes. But I do know that these kids that have gone through 15 years of these programs and have graduated with these amazing stories, if anybody understands the value of this, it's them.
Yeah.
And so they're vested and they're super excited to be brought back in and to be a part of the continuation of whatever the next chapter looks like. And these are the kids we know and love because we've had 15 years with them. And so
that's gotta feel cool. They're grown up. You've raised your kids, right? And they're coming back and
that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, we had the one group in Uganda. These boys have started a poultry project and then like a bread baking project. So they're just baking bread,
get to be creative,
selling it all around the community.
Yeah.
I just feel like their minds have all been expanded so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a joy to help anyone that is first taking initiative.
Yeah. Do you imagine that you guys will stay past 2028, stay in some capacity to inject the long-term thinking, the business strategy, knowledge?
Well, the final CarePoint only graduates 2032.
Okay.
So we'll still be going. So yes, I think we'll still stay connected with those other communities.
Let's talk through that sequence. So 28 is
Ogole and Bukadia are 2028.
So those will be graduating at that point. They won't be the first CarePoints in Uganda to graduate. There's one more before them.
Okay.
But I think that's a trial run in a way. We'll see where that one goes. These will be the first 2 that, I mean, maybe have, we'll see what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad ours aren't the first.
Yeah. We'll be handing those over. Now, that doesn't mean Hope Chest is done with them. They're still overseeing the project. They still technically have title to the land.
Okay.
But it's now no longer an NGO, it's a CBO, and it's technically just run and governed and overseen by this local leadership now with the side support of Hope Chest for accountability.
Hope Chest is actually working on a platform for alumni, for sponsors to stay connected with their alumni for good as well, which is kind of a fun project that's coming up. So we're like, okay, I've sponsored you for 15, 20 years now. Bye.
But then, sorry, we're bouncing, but it's not till what, 2034?
33, sorry.
33 that we have Ogonga scheduled, because they're obviously, as the last born, they've got the most amount still to do and more young kids that are still in sort of the development phase there.
Gotcha.
So we'll still be going. I know we've got a group going in January, maybe not us, but certainly Joe and Phil and some others will be back there in January. We'll see.
Anyone that wants to go, feel free, let us know.
And then I don't know where you're going next, Abbie, but I'm just thinking about we do have unsponsored kids still. Did you get them all done while we were there?
9. No, we have 9 unsponsored kids currently.
And we do, one of the areas of confusion that exists with sponsors, which is very, very understandable, is I sponsored this beautiful 10-year-old little kid. And I'm like, I'm going to sponsor them until they graduate. Mm-hmm. And in our mind, that's obviously when they're 18, because that's how it works in America. Well, at 10, they hadn't got through first grade yet. And then 2 or 3 years, they had to stay back because there was a famine or a drought. Or like in COVID, most of these kids just didn't go to school for a full year.
Yeah.
Or if you don't pass your national exams that year, you don't pass,
So you've got 22-year-olds, and so you've got a sponsor, right? And they've been sponsoring this kid now for 12 years. And they go, wait, hold on. Why am I still sponsoring a 22-year-old? And the answer is because they're in senior 1 or 2, meaning they're in middle of high school. And they're on their way, but it just is a different timeline. So, some of the work that Jen's been really focused on is just communicating with sponsors to help them understand, look, we really need you to keep sponsoring this kid through. They're nearly there. And I guess it's understandable that there's confusion there. So
yeah, and then the kids who need to be sponsored currently may be 24-year-old kids. So it's harder for people to jump in like, oh, I want to sponsor this 24-year-old who's still in high school.
It's a little less palatable than a cute little 10-year-old, right?
But these are the students who have worked so hard for 15 years to get where they're at, and they really want to be successful. So, yeah.
So part of the big game now is just trying to keep the education pot filled.
Okay.
We have people sponsoring kids, and that helps fund the education needs. But then we also have people, ourselves included, that we just contribute directly into the education fund for the growing, because as they progress and they get to secondary school, and it gets more and more expensive.
Gotcha.
So the good news is most of our kids are out of primary school and they're all in secondary. So they're harder to get sponsored because they don't look so cute anymore.
Yeah.
And they're harder to keep the sponsors because it's like, wait, it's been a long time. There's fatigue. I think that's I didn't know I was signing up for a 15-year sponsorship. But that work continues. So.
Yeah. So education fund is our biggest need.
Still continuing on. Yeah.
Always.
Unsexy.
Yeah.
It's what we raise money for every December. But it's a fundamental and very, very necessary.
I think everybody understands education. Even here, that's a very...
Yeah, there's
That's
no
not hard to
loans.
explain.
There's no college loans there, right? Everyone goes to college, everyone gets a college loan. There's no loans there. So if you want to go to college, you have to pay your fees.
Is there more to add from your trip?
Oh, the camp. We should just super quick.
Yeah.
We did something very unique. We've never done it before. Last year, we did something interesting. We actually took all the kids in Ogaloi, because they're about 45 minutes away from a major town where we stay. And we said, hey, we're going to put them all on a bus. And we took them to town, and we had them get to swim in a swimming pool.
Okay.
Now, most of these kids,
remember this,
they've never seen a swimming pool.
That was so fun.
And so that was a game-changing day, because it was just, again, it doesn't sound like sustainable development work. And yet, of course it is.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want these kids from the village to see the town, to see the city? It's not a city, it's a town. But to experience something like that. Wouldn't you want that for your kids? Mm-hmm. And so that was beautiful. And so this year we did something totally different, is we actually brought all of the sponsored kids in the program and a few others from all 3 locations. And we rented out a central school, huge
Boarding school.
It's a huge boarding school with massive facilities. And they were out for the vacation, for the holiday. And we just took over the whole place. And they shipped in kids from all of the locations. They'd never met. They know of each other. They know that they're all part of, Teso. And, but they all got to just hang out together for, 3 days?
3 nights, yeah.
And
Kind of summer camp style.
yes,
Yeah,
it
it was so
was.
fun.
So there
Yeah.
was several hundred of these kids there. And I mean, these are a bunch of teenage young kids and they live in a small sheltered world. And so for them to just engage with all these other kids.
Opens their world up a little bit, right?
Well, and it was fun.
Yeah.
So we did something totally unique. Jen shipped out marshmallows.
I was going to ask, did you do s'mores as
Yeah,
part of
and
the summer
actually,
camp experience?
We didn't know how it would turn out, but it was they loved it so much. I mean, I had at one point probably 50 melted marshmallows put in my face. Auntie, biscuit. Because I was putting all the roasted marshmallows on the graham crackers for them, but they loved it.
So on the one side of the camp, you've got them cutting the heads off the goats that are being skinned so that we can have goat meat in their meals. And on the other side, we've got a giant bonfire with marshmallows.
Well, they actually brought the knife that they butchered the goats with to cut the tips off the sticks for the s'mores. Same knife.
Just different. It's fine.
We it's called TIA. TIA is This is Africa. So
But we got to start each morning with a 300-person yoga circle, and that was pretty fun. Lots and lots of singing and dancing and talent show and
it just
soccer
sounds like a lot of
tournament,
joy
and
when you
it
guys
was
go
so
there.
much.
Just
I
a
mean,
lot
that's
of
what
happiness.
everyone takes away. Like new people that come, it's seeing the joy they have.
Yeah.
you really can't describe it. There's nothing quite like it here because there's no comparable reference point. What in our lives equates to someone that you've never met before from another continent for no reason that you can imagine, covering all of your most important needs in life financially and helping you get somewhere that you never imagined was possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just no one has that in their lives here. And so we struggle. Like we think, okay, I'm sponsoring a kid. It's $48 a month. It's a commitment. But the truth is, for most people, it's not that big of a financial commitment. And you just stick something on your fridge and you feel kind of good about it. Maybe you write a letter or two.
Yeah.
Because it's actually easy for us to do that, completely undervalue the impact that it's actually having. And until you've gone and met these people and understand what's going on the ground, most of our sponsors just don't understand how freaking awesome they really are. So it's a significant amount of money. It's also not to most Americans. The impact is immeasurable. And so the joy, the correlating gratitude that you get from these people, there's just nothing like it anywhere else. You don't see that anywhere. So everyone that goes, that's the first thing they're overwhelmed by. You pull up at the CarePoint, you jump out the bus and you're just swarmed by dancing people making all these strange noises.
They instantly welcome you too. You're not like, oh, I don't know you, so I'm not going to come give you a big hug and carry you down the driveway. But back to a little plug from what you said earlier. Please do write your kids. It does mean so much to them. And we've had sponsors come to us and be like, I've never seen my sponsor's face. Please tell them to send me a picture. So they think about their sponsors every single day, and they love them so much, and they want to hear from them and see pictures of them. So
would you encourage people to go on the trips? Or is it?
I would, for sure. Yeah. I mean, especially if you sponsor a kid. I always would say, if you don't sponsor a kid before you go. It's so much more. Sure. Like, we don't necessarily just want random people coming. We want people to go see their kids, right?
Yeah, it's a catch-22 because, I mean, I'm answering now 16 years in. Mm-hmm. In the first 10 years, I'm like, yes, go. Everyone needs to go. You need to see, because the principal goal was, how do I get people to go, see, understand, and then sponsor? And increasingly what's happened is we've had so many people go as, what do we call it, voluntourism. Mm-hmm. There's a large tendency in the West to, I want to go to Africa. Mm-hmm. And I want to
save them.
I want to save the poor African people, and I want to have pictures of me with cute little African children sitting on my lap. And I'm going to be honest, like, over the years doing what we've done, you gain increasing amounts of disgust for that. Now, I'm empathetic towards it, and I'm going to confess that it was some of the motivation when we started. Like, I think we've come a long way on this. But I don't think that we're really that interested in voluntourism.
Yeah, our desire would be go, come back, be involved.
If you want to learn and you want to understand how you could maybe be a part of continuing something or doing your own thing, like, we've got people that have come with us and started their own CarePoints down the road from where we are. How freaking awesome is that? And if nothing else, you come and you decide to, like, we've got so many people that have been sponsoring kids for years and years and years.
And now their businesses are involved. They sponsor 10 of their own kids, but they give thousands of dollars
and
each year.
And a huge shout out to you, because you know who you are. And those are worth it. It's so hard for me right now because, on the one hand, obviously we want to get as many people exposed as we can. On the other hand, I just, I don't want to be a tour guide for people to come and see and take pretty photos and then come back, and the entire net effect is just, like, they have so much joy there, and then you move on with your life. So maybe that's the wrong answer, but it's the honest one.
I kind of thought that might be your answer. Yeah. Well. Is there more to add? I mean, you guys have said, just to bring it back around, you're moving into Survive, Thrive, Succeed, right? You're coming into the Succeed part of the program, right? CarePoints are growing up. Kids are growing up. They're coming back. They are reinvesting in their own communities. You have 7 more years of CarePoints.
I think just close out with any calls to action that we have for anyone. You're obviously at the center of administering everything at this point. You're doing monthly calls with our team there. And so what's the most important next things and anything that you want from folks to help?
Well, the first thing, we would love 100% sponsorship always. So we have 9 children who are currently not sponsored. So that would be my number one.
And you said that's about $50 a month.
$45 a month. Okay. Yep. There are 3 different villages. So if you logged in, you'll see like only 4 available here, or 4 or 1. And then we have Education Fund, which is always ongoing. We have so many students in higher education that need extra funding, and what we do is we pay for half of these students' education, and then their guardians are supposed to pay for half. Well, some of them have no guardians who are able to pay their half. So that's kind of where we're adding these extra funds in.
So if you are someone that maybe doesn't want to commit to sponsoring and writing letters, but you're willing to make a monthly contribution of some sort towards the education fund, that's high demand for us right now. If that's you, we'd love to, any amount, that would be a huge deal.
Can be a one-time, monthly, quarterly, whatever you
Do
want.
they reach out to you directly? Do they go to the website? What's the best way to
reach out to me directly. We can put a link in the show notes as well.
Okay.
I think, those are the two main right now.
And if you're not a volunteerist, we'd love you to join us either in January or, reach out. The trips are grueling, but very, very cool and rewarding. And so, if that's on your mind, let us know.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for pushing us to get everyone updated.
It was a good story. Okay.
I felt like we covered a lot of ground there.
We went deep.
The entire history from beginning to end, and then we'll do it again next year when there's more to say.
Well, if you
maybe
ask,
before then.
You know me well enough. If you ask questions, you're going to get lofty responses.
The answer. Yeah.
Hey, but I just want to say thank you to everyone as well. Like, there's been so many people that have contributed and been a part of this journey. Can you believe it's been 16 years?
No, it's crazy.
I mean, it went slow and it went fast, and we're not done. And I can't believe it's going to be, what is it, another 8 years before our
that's a lot more time. A lot more progress. That'll be crazy to see what happens in 8 more years.
Who knew what we were signing up for? But when I think of all the various people that have sponsored and been a part of it and been curious and supportive, what's gone on there is beautiful. The number of people who want to be a part of helping and I'm thinking of very specific names and faces. Super grateful for all of you guys. So thanks for all the help.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. For more episodes, resources, and show notes, head to morethanmorepodcast.com.